Right, on to my guests for the day now. And with me now is Rachel Abbott and Lisa Buckley.
That's it.
Who are both part of the management team at the Beacon Drug and Alcohol Service. So thank you both for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Let's start with Dry January, because we are coming to the end of the month now. How many people actually participate in Dry January?
I think there's quite a large amount across the country, and a lot of people tend to do it either as like a New Year's resolution or might even do it in private, because I think admitting to people that you're going to avoid and abstain from alcohol for a month, sometimes some people don't understand why you're maybe doing that. So I think there's probably a lot more than actually kind of outwardly admit that they're doing it, but it's more of a personal thing. But it's definitely grown with popularity every single year.
And do you think people actually see it through? They may say that they're doing it, but do they complete it?
Well, speaking personally, yeah, I can say that they do see it through. I've never really thought about doing Dry January before, and a work colleague, mentioned that they were doing it, and I thought, it got me thinking. I thought, I'm not going to make the decision now, it's a bit of pressure, but I decided to do it, and I have seen it through. We're literally how many days shy of the end of January now, and I can say it's been a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. Not that I was drinking every day, I want to make that clear. I was more of a weekend drinker when I came home from work, looked forward to a nice craft beer when I got home. And kind of it's been okay, because it encourages you to think about your relationship with alcohol and the fact that you kind of mindlessly go into having a drink at the weekend and replacing that activity with something else, and also seeing the benefits as well.
But I mean, you know, the notion is you stay sober for a month. Just how effective do you think it actually is? Surely if you stay sober for a month, but then for the remaining 11 months you drink heavily, there's no reason to it.
I mean, initially, Dry January was around a fundraising effort for cancer charities. I think what it does people now is when you've had the excesses of Christmas and New Year's, people like to have that period of detox, and kind of to label it as something like Dry January kind of gives it a little bit more sort of validity, really. It doesn't necessarily mean that those people who successfully complete Dry January will go on to completely abstain and be sober. Like Lisa said, I think what it allows people to do is to take that step back from drinking habits that may have crept up on them and maybe increased over the festive period, and actually try and look at their patterns of drinking, try and break some of those bad habits, do things that are a bit healthier, and reassess, you know, what does alcohol mean in my life? Do I need to have a drink every day after work? Am I drinking because I'm stressed? Do I feel very anxious at the thought of not drinking? And I think it can identify when people's drinking is maybe becoming a little bit more problematic than it has been in the past. It allows them to kind of self-assess.
Okay, and so does Dry January ever affect the numbers that come to you at the Beacon?
We definitely get an increase in referrals at the beginning of the year, and again, I think that's due to people taking stock over Christmas. It can be a very stressful time for people, very intense with family, and alcohol is pretty free-flowing. So we do see quite an increase in referrals in the new year as people make New Year's resolutions, things have come to a head, they want to make that change. Some of those people may do it off the back of Dry January, but it's less important about the reason they are choosing to make that change, and the fact that they've actually decided to do that regardless of what their motivation is. They've come through the door to get help.
So guys, what's some of the main reasons why people become addicts?
It's really complex, and I think it's really, we wouldn't generally use the term addict, because generally it's become quite a stigmatised kind of word, and we see people in all different stages of use, from more recreational drinkers and users, problematic, all the way up to what you would maybe term physical dependency. Some common themes that come out for people tend to be stress, relationship breakdowns, problems with children or families, so maybe social services involvement, loss of a job, significant physical and mental health problems, people that have been in the care system. So a lot of different factors interact with each other to move people towards drugs or alcohol as a coping mechanism.
And have you seen a change in trend over the years?
There has been a bit of a change, particularly in relation to the new psychoactive substances, or legal highs as they call them, but we prefer not to call them that because it implies that they're legal and they're safe. So we do see more of that coming through as a secondary drug. So you might have somebody who might be using heroin, for example, but might be also smoking black mamba as well. What do you reckon on that in terms of trends?
The trends do change depending on what is available, the price, and generally sort of maybe media portrayals of drugs and alcohol and things, and what's sort of fashionable, especially with the young people. That's definitely kind of key, what peer groups and friends are using and what they kind of see in their social groups as well. So it does fluctuate, definitely.
I mean, that's a predominant topic in the news. It dominates the news at the moment, legal highs. What's your experience with them in the sense of, have people come to you, who take them?
We're seeing a growing number of referrals for legal highs. It used to be quite low. People didn't know a lot about them. They were very, very new, and people weren't as open for getting help with it. They didn't identify with that as being a problem because they were legal highs. They were deemed legal and safe. As we know now, a large number have been banned under Parliament bills and Misuse of Drugs Acts, and we're seeing additional ones being added all the time. People are much more open to getting help now. I think people recognise that it's becoming an issue. I think they recognise the really significant and serious health implications that these substances have on them. So we're definitely seeing an increase across adult and young person services in the area.
And what are some of the risks associated with these substances?
How long have we got?
Yeah, well, in terms of the effects on people, depending on whether it's a depressant type legal high, so that depresses the central nervous system, or if it's a stimulant that can cause overheating. There's been a lot of high profile type cases where people have taken legal highs and not known the strength of them and overdosed, overheated.
We see people, it causes significant mental health problems. We've seen people with extreme paranoia, anxiety. It affects people and makes them suicidal in some cases. It can make people very agitated. It can really put pressure on your heart and your circulatory system, so people are much likely to have panic attacks, heart attacks, strokes. We've had recent reports in Walsall that 4 people lost consciousness last week after taking a very strong NPS substance called Pandora's box. So we're very concerned about the use of that and other substances like black mamba that are becoming very, very dangerous.
I mean, there's going to be a ban that's implemented in April of this year. Do you think that the ban will affect the use of legal highs across the region?
I think it will help to establish the fact that legal doesn't mean safe, definitely. And I think it shows that services and people are taking the risks seriously, especially with our young service users and the young person service. NPS use is very popular because it's unregulated, because some of the substances are legal and they feel like they can, in essence, get away with the use of these sort of drugs. Whether it will affect people will there to be seen.
Perfect. Unfortunately, that is all we've got time for, but thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.